Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to really get under the surface of some big ideas, pulling out the insights that can hopefully help you navigate your own world a bit better. And today, well, we're tackling a feeling, a really common one, I think. That sense of just drudgery, that feeling like you're just killing time, maybe like you're, I don't know, sitting out a prison sentence, as the source puts it. It's that constant waiting game, isn't it? Waiting for life to change, for that new stage to finally start where you'll be different, happier, more cool. But it always feels like it's just over the horizon, right? Always somewhere in the future, never quite here. I remember reading this description. It really stuck with me. Picture this. Arriving at a beach, heavy gray sky, waves that aren't playful but sharp, almost biting. Cold, damp breeze. Even the seagulls seem, indifferent, just pecking at stuff. And even though you're supposed to be relaxing, that weariness just hangs there. Maybe you felt that too. That feeling of being sick and tired of this house or this job or just the routine.
Knowing you want something more, something better, but feeling completely, utterly stuck. That discomfort, that dissatisfaction, it just follows you around, doesn't it? Like you're pushing through the days and all you're left with is this kind of gnawing emptiness. So what if there was a way to completely flip that? A framework, profound, but also surprisingly simple, that just upends that whole feeling of being trapped. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something called reality transurfing. And it's presented as way more than just a philosophy. It's described as a practical, actionable model, a way to intentionally choose and actually shape your own reality. The core message, and it's a big one, is this. You have the right, the inherent right, to choose the life you want. And the world, it's apparently always ready to fulfill that choice.
It really is a fascinating idea. And what grabs me is that transurfing isn't just saying, think positive and everything will be okay. It's not that kind of naive optimism. Instead, it presents itself as a specific model, almost like a diagram, for understanding how reality is actually structured. And, crucially, how our own consciousness interacts with it directly. So our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack that. How does transurfing suggest we can shift? Shift from being passive observers where life just happens to us to becoming active directors of our own personal reality. We'll explore how our perception, our inner state, these aren't just reactions, they're apparently the levers for change. And most importantly, we want to look at how you can apply these concepts, like right away, to start seeing some benefit. It's all about transforming potential alternatives, all those what ifs, into physical reality. Or as the name suggests, gliding through the alternative space. We're aiming to give you some solid ground here, a kind of map to understand principles that are claimed to just work, even if the ultimate how the universe pulls it off remains a bit of a mystery.
Okay, let's get into it. Section 1, the world as your mirror. This feels like the foundational principle, right?
Yep.
So first things first, what is transurfing? The name itself is intriguing. The source says it sort of came from out of nowhere, not made up, but discovered.
Yeah, that's the claim. Like an intuitive download of knowledge rather than an invention. It's described in a few ways. Gliding through the alternative space or transforming potential alternatives into reality.
Yeah.
Or even shifting across lifelines. It sounds a bit out there, maybe mystical, but it's presented as a very direct, almost mechanical interaction with reality.
Okay, so to get our heads around that,
Yeah.
we need this first big idea. Reality isn't just, well, what we see and touch.
Exactly. That's the absolute starting point. According to transurfing, our world exists in two forms simultaneously. There's the physical reality, we all know, the tangible stuff governed by science, the chair you're sitting on, the air you're breathing, solid, predictable, mostly. But then there's this other layer, the metaphysical alternative space. And understanding this dual nature is critical for everything else.
The metaphysical alternative space.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds big. What exactly is that? Is it like a parallel dimension running alongside ours?
Not quite like in the sci-fi movies. It's better to think of it as a vast, infinite information structure, like a cosmic blueprint, maybe, or an enormous database holding all possibilities.
Yeah.
This alternative space, as the text calls it, contains the scripts of all possible events, every single potential outcome. It's infinite. Imagine every possible point on an endless graph. It records apparently everything that ever was, is, or will be as potential. And it's not located somewhere in our 3 dimensions. It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Pure information potential.
Wow. Okay. So not a physical place, but an information field. Pure potential. That's still a bit hard to visualize. Is there an analogy that helps?
Let's try this. Maybe moving away from the book's examples slightly. Imagine you're in a massive dark room, like an infinite cinema. And instead of one screen, the walls, ceiling, floor, everything is covered in screens, each holding a potential movie of a possible life event or reality. Infinite movies. These are all just dormant potentials, scripts waiting. Now, your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions, they act like a projector beam. When you focus your thought energy, you shine that beam onto one specific screen, one potential script in that infinite room. That thought energy illuminates that corresponding sector, that storyline, and the act of illuminating it begins the process of bringing it from pure potential into your physical experience.
What does that actually mean for us, for you listening? It means we're not just living out one fixed reality. We're constantly pulling possibilities from this infinite catalog based on us, our inner state.
That's the core insight. It's huge. Every individual creates the layer of their individual world via the transmission of thought energy. Your thoughts aren't just passive internal events, they're energetic broadcasts. And this broadcast resonates with and illuminates specific sectors in that alternative space. This illumination brings those potentials into your physical manifestation. It's not that your thoughts force reality to change directly, like pushing it. It's more like your energy signature tunes you into, or shifts you onto, a corresponding lifeline that already exists as potential within that space. And the massive implication is, whatever you make of your perception of the world is what your world will become. You're not just watching the movie, you're unconsciously selecting which movie plays.
Okay, that sets the stage. But here's where I, and probably a lot of people listening, hit a wall. If we're creating our reality, why does it so often feel like we're not in control? Why does it feel like we're just being pushed around by society, by trends, by the news, by our boss, by our family obligations? We're taught from day one to obey, right? Serve the country, serve the family, serve the company. How does transurfing account for those powerful external forces that seem to dictate so much? This sounds like pendulums.
You've nailed it. That brings us squarely to the concept of destructive pendulums. Imagine any group of people, could be small, could be huge, who start thinking, feeling, or acting in a similar, synchronized way. Their combined thought waves, according to Transurfing, don't just vanish, they accumulate, they merge, and they form these invisible but real energy information structures. Those are pendulums. Think big, like political parties, religions, or smaller, like a company culture, a fashion trend, even a family dynamic, or abstract ideas, environmentalism, charity drives. The key thing is these structures develop independently once they reach a certain critical mass, and then they start to subject people to their own laws. And here's the really crucial insight. These pendulums aren't passive. They actively feed on our energy. Their true task is not to cure the individual, but to claim them as an adherent. They want your emotional die-in.
Feed on us. Seriously, like energy vampires. They need our collective attention and emotion to survive.
In a very real energetic sense, yes, that's the model. Pendulums hook into emotions and reactions, and they particularly love the negative ones. Why? Because they're often stronger, more intense, easier to provoke. Think about the range. Indignation, dissatisfaction, hate, irritation, anxiety, worry, depression, confusion, despair, fear, pity. But also things like attachment, admiration, idealization, pride, arrogance, contempt, duty, guilt. Even seemingly positive, intense emotions like adulation can feed a pendulum. Any strong emotional frequency is potential food. The source uses this analogy of a jester or golem stirring up a bee's nest, not because it cares about the bees, but just to prove they're aggressive, to draw attention, to get people hooked into the drama, feeding it energy. And this scales up. Things like war and revolution, from this perspective, are fundamentally battles between powerful pendulums vying for adherence, for energy, for force. The pendulum wants your thought energy locked onto its frequency. It wants you playing its game.
Okay, hold on. So if I'm, say, doom-scrolling the news, getting really worked up about disasters or political fights, discussing it angrily with friends, I'm basically feeding those pendulums and potentially pulling myself onto a lifeline where that kind of negativity is more common.
That's exactly the mechanism described. If you allow yourself to take on board information about disaster and misfortune and discuss it with friends, getting deeply emotionally invested, you are, in effect, tuning your energy to that frequency. You shift to a lifeline where you may well end up in the role of the victim or experience more of that negativity. The pendulum ensnares a person's thought energy, holding it at a certain frequency. It's not just the information itself, it's the emotional charge you give it. Think about the epidemic example given. Transurfing suggests we might get sick not just from germs, but because we allow ourselves to become infected by the pendulum's game of fear and anxiety around illness. Think about advertising constantly telling us we're predisposed to illness, or already sick, or about to get sick. That creates a collective energy field of fear, which can actually help manifest illness. The takeaway here is huge. Your attention and your emotional energy are like currency in this model. Pendulums thrive when you spend that currency on them, especially through negative reactions.
Wow. If that's even partly true, it changes how you look at, well, pretty much everything in society. Advertising, politics, social media feel like a constant subtle manipulation for our energy.
It's a radical perspective, definitely. Society, viewed through this lens, is largely based on pendulums that develop independently and then subjugate adherents to their will. This naturally leads to stereotypes that we feel pressured to conform to. And conforming can blind the mind, making us lose our capacity for independent, conscious thought. The example of teenagers is potent. They're often very susceptible, dressing alike, talking alike, chasing the latest trend, modernism, instead of creating something genuinely individual. This pressure fundamentally severs the buds from the stem of individuality, pushing people towards a collective norm. That do as I do principle operates everywhere: fashion, careers, even how we think relationships should be. And if you don't fit that mold, you feel that inner discomfort, that friction. This conformity can easily trap them in a web of illusion, making them serve the pendulum's agenda instead of their own authentic path. So it forces you to ask, how much of what I think I want or who I think I am is genuinely me? And how much is just the echo of a pendulum I've bought into? Becoming aware of pendulums is the first step to reclaiming that energy and making choices that are truly yours.
Okay, so we have these external forces, these pendulums, trying to hook us and drain our energy. But what about internal stuff? Things we do to ourselves that cause problems. It feels like sometimes I'm my own worst enemy, even without any pendulums involved. Does transurfing talk about that?
It absolutely does. And that brings us to the next crucial concept: excess potential. If pendulums are the external puppeteers, excess potential is the internal imbalance, the unnecessary weight we create that throws our own reality off kilter. Think of it as tension, like a localized disturbance in the smooth energy field of the alternative space.
Yeah.
And what creates this tension? Attributing excessive and disproportionate meaning to something. Anything, really. When you build up this energetic tension, this imbalance, what the book calls balanced forces, naturally emerge within the alternative space, their job, to neutralize that excess potential. And how do they usually neutralize it? Often by creating problems, setbacks, or the opposite of what you were intensely focused on. It's like the universe trying to restore equilibrium, and that restoration often feels like a slap in the face to us.
Excessive and disproportionate meaning. That sounds dangerously broad. Like, it could apply to almost anything we care about. What are the main ways we create this stuff?
Yeah, it's pervasive. There are several key forms, all stemming from an imbalance in our inner attitude, our inner importance. The big one is importance itself. It shows up in two main ways. Inner importance. This is where you overestimate your own significance. Either your virtues, I'm so important, I deserve special treatment, or paradoxically, your flaws, I'm so ugly, I'm hopelessly stupid. Both extremes create the same amount of excess potential. If you think you're too great, reality might serve you a slice of humble pie, a disappointing slap. If you obsess over your flaws, that negative focus attracts problems related to those flaws. The source makes a great point. Ugliness or physical deformity is just part of the scenery to everyone else because to them it is of no personal significance. It's your intense internal focus, your importance that distorts your reality around it.
So focusing too much on my flaws is just as bad as being arrogant.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Energetically, yes, in terms of creating imbalance. Then there's outer importance. This is when you give excessive meaning to something outside yourself, an external object, a goal, a person, like chasing that prestigious job purely for the status. If that job becomes disproportionately vital to your happiness or self-worth, problems will arise. The more disproportionately important it becomes, the more likely it is that problems will arise. Remember the example of hating your house. If you carry that intense negativity, a form of importance, you'll likely find equally frustrating problems in a new luxurious mansion. Your internal negativity parameters remain, attracting corresponding issues. The alternative space has plenty of mansions where you can feel miserable if that's your vibration.
Okay, so importance is huge. What else?
Idealization and worship. Creating an idol, whether it's a person, an idea, or even an object. Putting something or someone on an impossibly high pedestal. The source is clear. The myth will sooner or later be debunked and the necessary disillusionment follows. That imbalance has to be corrected. Think of celebrity worship turning sour. Then there's contempt and vanity, judging others harshly, feeling superior. On an energetic level, there are no good or bad people, just different energy signatures. Contempt creates a strong negative polarization that balanced forces will act against. If you energetically wound someone with contempt, that energy has to go somewhere and it often boomerangs. Guilt. This one is particularly nasty. It generates punishment in the most varied form, from tiny inconveniences to huge problems. It's like putting out an energetic signal saying, I deserve bad things. And it attracts manipulators like flies, people who sense that guilt and know how to dump even more guilt on you, feeding their own pendulums. Renouncing guilt, truly letting it go, shifts you to lifelines where punishment scripts just don't feature.
Wow, guilt is a big one. And perfectionism. That sounds positive, usually.
But excessive perfectionism creates immense tension. The striving for perfection is so deeply instilled that it becomes part of their persona. It creates huge excess potential, leading to problems, especially when the perfectionist starts tyrannizing everyone else with their impossible standards. It looks ridiculous from the outside, the source notes. And finally, attachment to money. This is tricky. It is almost impossible to avoid a dependent relationship on money because it is very hard to love money without wanting more of it. Worrying intensely about not having enough money is a massive generator of negative importance. It attracts lifelines in which there is no wealth because your focus is locked on lack. Transurfing suggests seeing money not as the goal itself, but as an accompanying attribute to the goal. Focus on the experience you want, the travel, the creative project. The freedom and the money needed will arrive as a natural consequence without the desperate attachment.
Okay, so basically, all this importance we attach to things, good, bad, internal, external, is the root cause of a lot of our stress and disappointment.
Absolutely. Stress is a consequence of importance. Trying to treat the stress without addressing the underlying importance is like treating symptoms without curing the disease. It's futile. To eliminate mental tension, it is essential and sufficient for importance to be reduced. That's the key. Consciously lower the stakes in your mind. By reducing importance, you detach yourself from the pendulum's grip, you neutralize the excess potential, and you can act effectively. Paradoxically, letting go of that tight, white-knuckled grip gives you more genuine control and freedom.
What about positive feelings then? Like, can you be too happy? Can intense joy or love create excess potential that backfires?
That's a great question, and the answer is generally no, with a slight caveat. Unlike negative emotions that feed destructive pendulums and create problematic potential, genuine positive states work differently. A happy person transmits creative energy which shifts them onto positive lifelines. This creative, flowing energy does not create the destructive potential that balanced forces strive to eliminate. Think of love, with a capital L, not possessive attachment or desperate need, but that universal sense of appreciation, connection, creative joy. This is seen as a purely creative force. Balanced forces don't oppose creation, they oppose imbalance and destruction. It's why so many traditions see love as the fundamental creative force of the universe. It's pure, positive, generative energy.
So putting it all together, our own intense focus, even on things we really want, can blow up in our face if it creates this excess potential. It feels like the core rule is don't make anything too important, positively or negatively, or reality will push back to restore balance. Is that about right?
That's a very good summary of the principle. If we connect it back to the bigger picture, it explains why pushing too hard, being overly invested, or desperately wanting something often seems to lead to the exact opposite outcome. It's all about finding that delicate balance between focused intention and detached allowance. The mind wants to control everything, right? And that turns life into a constant battle against the natural flow. If the mind could just relax its grip a little, let the flow find its own course rather than trying to force it, so many problems would just dissolve. This fighting the flow caused by excess importance is behind so many of our struggles. It's about learning to let go just enough to let the universe cooperate with you.
Okay, this is getting really practical now. If our thoughts and our internal balance are so key, how do we direct that consciously? How do we actually choose effectively? It can't just be wishing, right? We've all wished for things, and it's usually a bit hit and miss. So how do we move from passive wishing to active intending?
You're absolutely right. It's way more precise than just wishing. We need to distinguish between desire and intention. Desire, in this model, is the concentration of attention on a goal. It's like looking at a destination on a map. You see it, you want to be there. But, as the source says, it is not the desire that actually makes you raise your hand to grab something. Desire alone doesn't create movement. Intention is the concentration of attention on movement towards the goal. That's the active component. And there are two critical types. Inner intention. This is what we usually think of as willpower. It strives directly towards the goal. It's your personal effort, your struggle, your force. It's when you try to get something from life by pushing, pulling, striving, like trying to physically push a huge boulder uphill by yourself, limited by your own strength.
Okay, that's familiar. What's the other one?
Outer intention. This is the game changer. This power is focused on the process of its independent realization. It operates differently. It does not hurry to achieve the goal as it is already a done deal. Outer intention is described as unremitting, cool-headed, detached, and moves the goal indomitably towards its realization. It doesn't fight reality. It selects a different reality.
Yeah. So inner intention is me trying to push the world around.
Yeah.
And outer intention is like the world rearranging itself for me.
That's a fantastic way to put it, exactly. Using inner intention, a person tries to reposition their own fact of material realization relative to the alternative space. You're trying to move yourself within a fixed reality. It's hard work, but outer intention shifts the alternative space so that your material realization is where it needs to be. The whole landscape shifts subtly, so you end up where you intended. You're not pushing the boulder. The path changes, so the boulder rolls to where you want it. The result might look the same, but the means are worlds apart. One is struggle, the other is alignment, a glide. And importantly, outer intention isn't something you need to build up or generate energy for. It's already there, super abundant, all around us. We're swimming in it. The trick is learning how to access and gently direct it.
That sounds incredible, almost.
Yeah.
Too easy. My rational mind immediately goes, okay, so I just kick back, visualize, and wait for my Ferrari. How do we actually tap into this outer intention if it's not about willpower or effort?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is surprisingly simple, yet challenging for our modern minds. Outer intention arises not as a result of will, but as a consequence of harmony between the heart and mind. That unity, that alignment is everything. Our rational mind, trained in logic and analysis, has become radically distanced from understanding this intuitive power. That's why these ideas can seem implausible or mystical. We've been told since childhood, think with your head, analyze, categorize, dissect. This focus has, according to Transurfing, atrophied our connection to the heart's wisdom. The heart, unlike the mind, does not use designations. It feels and knows. It operates on intuition, subtle feelings, direct knowing. So the task isn't to force outer intention, it's to learn to listen. To interpret what the heart is trying to tell the mind when you're making a choice or setting an intention, it just requires paying close attention to your inner state, listening for that subtle signal.
Listening for the rustle of the morning stars, as the book calls it. That's such a beautiful phrase. What does that actually feel like, practically speaking? How do we tune into that?
It refers to that quiet, intuitive sense you get before your analytical mind kicks in. That gut feeling, that subtle sense of inner rightness or wrongness, a feeling of peace, expansion, lightness about a choice, or a subtle contraction, discomfort, a feeling of offness. It's your heart, your intuition, whispering directions. Learning to hear it means pausing, getting quiet, and noticing those subtle body sensations or feelings before you rationalize them away. When your heart truly desires something, not just a mental should want, and your mind is clear, calm, and allowing, not forcing or doubting, that's when the heart and mind are in harmony. And that harmony naturally activates outer intention.
Okay, but what happens if they're not aligned? Especially if we're stuck in negativity. Are we then using this outer intention against ourselves without realizing it?
Bingo. That's exactly the danger. When you express resentment and dissatisfaction, you become subject to the impact of balanced forces, and you tune your broadcast to negative frequencies. Your thought energy becomes focused on negative sectors of the alternative space, and because outer intention responds to your dominant energy signature, attracted by the negativity, outer intention transforms that sector into the physical reality of life. Ooh. So quite literally, the more you love to hate something, the more likely you are to have experience of it in your life. Whether you're intensely focused on liking or not liking, you're radiating energy. But the source makes a key point. Emotions associated with not liking are more powerful in their magnetic pull. They create a stronger, more dissonant vibration that quickly draws corresponding negative lifelines toward you. So, yes, absolutely. Through chronic negative focus and that internal conflict between what your heart might truly want and what your mind is dwelling on, you can inadvertently wield outer intention like a weapon against yourself, manifesting the very things you fear or despise.
Right. So if our inner state is broadcasting this signal, constantly shaping our reality, how do we get better at consciously directing it? How do we choose the reality we want instead of defaulting to the one dictated by negativity or external pressures? This seems to lead us to another key tool, slides. What are they exactly?
Slides are basically the mental pictures, or maybe more accurately, the mental filters through which we see ourselves and the world. Very often, our perceptions of ourselves and our environment are often far from the truth. Why? The distortion is caused by slides. A slide, in this sense, is a distorted picture of reality that exists in your mind. And interestingly, these slides are often generated by unity of heart and mind, especially the negative ones. When your heart feels fear and your mind focuses on that fear, bam, you create a powerful negative slide. This alignment on negativity leads to our worst expectations coming true. It's often fueled by excess importance. If you worry intensely about your appearance, you create a negative slide, I am not beautiful, and you start seeing yourself and interpreting others' reactions through that distorting filter, even if it's not objectively true. The slide exists only in your mind, but it colors your entire experience.
Okay, so negative slides are powerful attractors for negative experiences. Does it work the other way? Can we create positive slides to manifest what we actually want?
Absolutely. That's precisely the goal of working consciously with slides. The task is twofold. First, identify your recurring negative slides, those distorted self-images or worldviews. Then you have to deprive slides of their essential foundation, namely your attention and the significance you attribute them. Starve them of your energy. Consciously stop feeding them with worry and importance, and then you actively replace them with what Transurfing calls a positive slide or a target slide. This is a mental picture of the goal as if it had already been reached. This deliberate, positive, immersive mental picture, used correctly and consistently, is described as being capable of miraculously transforming the layer of your world.
How do we make them work, though? Is it just thinking happy thoughts? Or is there more to it? What's the technique?
It's much more active and immersive than just thinking happy thoughts. It's about stepping into the picture, living it in your imagination. Don't just observe the goal like watching a movie. Actively participate in what the source calls a virtual waking dream. Let's use the new home example. Don't just see a picture of the house. In your mind, enter the house, walk through the rooms, touching things as you go, sink into an armchair across from the fireplace, feel the textures, smell the air, hear the sounds. Make yourself at home because it is your home. Do not look at it with the eyes of a suffering dreamer. The house is already yours. Act as if it were real. This immersive, multi-sensory visualization does something crucial. It widens your comfort zone. It makes that desired reality feel familiar, natural, attainable to your subconscious. And because of that internal shift, it is sure to be materialized, although the timing depends on the mirror's delay.
Actively participating.
Yeah.
Feeling it as real now. That's a key difference. But does this mean we only focus on the end result? Like if I want that promotion, do I just visualize being the CEO and ignore the steps in between?
Another crucial distinction. This goes back to intention versus desire. Remember, desire is the concentration of attention on a goal. Intention is the concentration of attention on movement towards the goal. What actually moves you forward, according to Transurfing, is often to visualize the process of moving towards the goal, rather than to contemplate the goal itself exclusively. Think about the mother caring for her child. She's not just visualizing the grown-up adult, she's immersed in the ongoing process of nurturing, teaching, guiding, day by day. Many goals aren't achieved in one jump. They require a sequence of steps, a consecutive path, what the book calls transfer chains. Getting that promotion might involve acing a project, developing a skill, building relationships. The technique suggests visualizing the realization process of a current link in the transfer chain. Focus on successfully navigating the next logical step. You trust that everything happens at the right time, meaning the flow will present the next step when you're ready for it. Now, if the immediate path isn't clear, that's when you focus more intensely on the overall target slide, the end vision. Why? Because holding that vision clearly will take you in the necessary direction by attracting the opportunities, insights, and resources needed for the next step to emerge. They work together. The end vision guides, the process visualization moves you along the path.
Okay, that makes sense. Vision and process. But this sounds amazing, almost like a superpower. If it's this straightforward, why isn't everyone just manifesting their dream lives constantly? Why the struggle?
Yeah, that's the reality check, isn't it? The source is very clear. Material realization is inert like tar. The physical world responds, but with a delay. Like turning a huge ship, it takes time for the changes initiated in the alternative space to manifest physically. So what's required is time, patience, and indomitable conviction. Not frantic effort, but steady, calm knowing. It needs systematic visualization. It has to be treated as a specific task, not just random daydreaming or wishful thinking. As the book says, success loves regularity the most. Most people, unfortunately, are used to letting their thoughts free flow. Their mental energy gets scattered, diffused into a formless mass, producing no clear result. Except, ironically, for the things they worry about. Because worry often does involve consistent, focused negative visualization, which is why our worst expectations often seem to manifest so readily. It's like those old traders giving a discount to the first customer. It wasn't just being nice, they were performing a small ritual, consciously attuning to the vibration of successful trading, creating an initial positive data point for the day. It's applying the principle without necessarily thinking of it as mystical magic. What's really striking here is how we can use our own imagination, this powerful tool we all have, to literally program or select our reality if we do it consistently, immersively, and with that crucial ingredient of detached, trusting intention. It's about becoming the conscious artist painting on the canvas of your life.
Okay, so we're painting our reality with slides, guided by intention. But how do we make sure the paint flows smoothly? How do we avoid constantly fighting upstream, hitting obstacles? We're so conditioned to believe life is a struggle that success demands this relentless battle.
This leads us perfectly into the idea of going with the alternatives flow. It's about efficiency and ease. The mind's greatest error, the text suggests, is that it strives to control the flow itself rather than its own movement within the flow. Think about that. We try to force the river, tell it where to go, but the smarter approach is to become an expert navigator within the river's existing current. Why? Because the flow takes the path of least resistance, and so it contains the most rational and efficient solution to a problem. The universe is inherently efficient if we let it be. So the practical advice is to move the center of gravity away from control towards observation. Let go of the need to manage everything. Adopt a stance of relaxed allowance. Do not be in a hurry to fob someone off, object, argue, prove yourself, get involved, manage, or criticize. Pause. Breathe. Give situations a chance to resolve themselves without your immediate forceful intervention. It sounds paradoxical, but this surrender of micromanagement actually gives you more genuine control because you're aligning with the powerful underlying currents of reality. You learn to exercise detachment, act with integrity, do what needs doing, but with a cold mind, meaning without excessive emotional investment. Importance, clouding your judgment or creating resistance. This protects you, shields you from pendulums, and allows the best solutions to emerge.
That is a massive shift. We're trained to make things happen, to push, to strive. I could just hear listeners thinking, how do you not fight the current when that's all you've ever known? Sounds passive.
It feels passive initially, but it's actually incredibly active awareness. It means pausing before reacting impulsively. When an obstacle appears, instead of immediately hitting it with a hammer, stop, observe, ask, is there a simpler way around this? Is the flow signaling a need to adjust my course slightly? Is there an easier path I'm overlooking because I'm so focused on forcing this way? It's about cultivating that inner calm that allows you to perceive solutions rather than frantically manufacturing them. Often the path of least resistance, the most elegant solution, reveals itself only when we stop pushing so hard and create space for it.
Okay, that makes sense. Letting the solution emerge.
Yeah.
But what if I don't even know where I'm trying to go? What if I don't know my true goal? How do I find my door, my authentic path, with all the noise telling me what I should want?
This is where transurfing gets incredibly liberating. The fundamental premise is everyone has the right to choose. And when you find your path, your true goal, no one and nothing can stop you then, because the heart's frail key fits the lock to your path perfectly. The biggest obstacle here is the trap of foreign goals. Pendulums are masters at dangling fashionable and prestigious goals in front of us, goals designed to serve their energy needs, not our fulfillment. They aim to lure you away from your perfect lifeline. The source puts it bluntly. Copying someone else's script always creates a parody. Think about truly successful, iconic people, and they didn't succeed by imitation. They succeeded because they go their own way. Their unique, frail key fit their unique lock.
Okay, so avoid the parodies. How do we find our key, our door? How do we tune out the shoulds and hear our own truth?
The guidance is simple yet profound. Listen to your heart and not your mind. Your mind gets caught up in logic, status, external validation. Your heart knows best of all where you can shine like a star. It holds the blueprint for your unique potential and joy. The process isn't about frantic, active searching. That just creates importance and anxiety. Instead, it's about cultivating quiet receptivity. Take a time alone to relax and finally listen to the rustle of the morning stars. Create that inner stillness where intuition can speak. Also, consciously widen the diapason of external information you receive and observe. Expose yourself to new things, visit new places, read different subjects, talk to diverse people, be curious. Observe what resonates, what sparks your interest, what feels right in your heart. The right information will present itself to your receptive awareness when you stop forcing and start observing. It's more like being drawn towards something than hunting it down.
And are there warning signs? How do I know if I've accidentally wandered onto a foreign path, even if it looks successful on the outside?
Yes. Definite signs, which are essentially balanced forces, gently, or not so gently, trying to nudge you back towards your authentic path. Sign number 1. It is not the right door if you get tired on the path to your goal, becoming drained, utterly exhausted. Even if you're achieving things, there's a persistent lack of joy, a feeling of inner tension or resentment. Your energy is constantly depleted. Another sign. The path seems to slam shut in your face at a crucial moment, often right after some initial success. Pendulums love to open flashy public doors, easy, prestigious-looking paths to lure you in, drain your energy, and then discard you. If you constantly have to talk yourself into pursuing a goal, if your gut feeling is a subtle no despite the external appeal, that's your heart waving a red flag. Your true path, your own door, will feel resonant, energizing, and aligned. Even when you face challenges, it fuels you rather than drains you.
Okay, so find the door that feels right, that energizes. Once we sense that, how do we activate that power to actually walk through it? What about this will to have it? That sounds different from just wanting.
It is very different. The will to have isn't aggressive willpower. It's described as the dispassionate, unemotional intention to take what is unquestionably yours. Calm, quiet conviction. It's distinct from forceful decisiveness and vigor, which paradoxically generate that excess potential we talked about. If you approach your goal with too much desperate, fiery passion, balanced forces will quickly cool your smoldering coals. They'll create obstacles to dampen that excessive energy. The will to have develops in stages. First, there might be initial inhibition, a quiet voice saying, "Really? Can this amazing thing really be for me?" As you consciously choose it and relax into it comes to light. A joyful acceptance, bringing it into your comfort zone. It feels natural, playful almost. And finally, weightlessness. Complete effortless conviction. It's already done. It's yours. There's almost a detachment because the outcome feels inevitable, a given. The practical step. Begin placing one foot in front of the other in the direction of your goal in whatever way you can. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Intention is purified in the process of doing through movement. Take the first small step, then the next, carrying that calm, detached knowing. And this really prompts a question for everyone listening. Is your life feeling like a constant uphill battle? Could it be because you're either fighting the natural flow or perhaps you're pushing hard towards a door that isn't actually yours? The answer could unlock a lot.
This is all incredibly insightful. But let's bring it right down to the ground level. We live busy, often chaotic lives. How do we actually do this stuff day to day? What are the concrete, practical steps we can start taking, like today?
Absolutely. Theory is great, but practice is where the transformation happens. It all begins with cultivating moment-to-moment conscious awareness. Transurfing calls this activating the inner guardian. Maximum awareness can be achieved as long as the inner guardian is constantly present in your consciousness. How? By making it a habit to mentally ask yourself throughout the day, are you asleep or not? Are you present or just reacting on autopilot? This simple check-in needs to become an attitude, a constant background awareness. Doing this makes you the puppeteer and master of the situation, or at least aware of the strings, rather than just a pawn being moved around unconsciously. So when something undesirable happens, you're stuck in traffic, someone's rude, a plan falls through, don't immediately react like an oyster closing up in distress. Activate the guardian. Pause. Recognize the situation, and maybe internally say something like, stop, it is just a game with a golem. Okay, golem, let's play.
Okay, Gollum, let's play. I like that. It reframes it instantly, doesn't it? Takes the personal sting out of it. Treats it like a challenge in a game rather than a personal attack.
Exactly. It injects detachment and even a bit of playfulness. The key is to stay positive, even if you have to pretend at first. The source actually encourages you to adopt the foolish habit of rejoicing in setbacks. Sounds crazy, right? Rejoice when things go wrong. But by doing this, by refusing to give the negative event the reaction it expects and the pendulum craves, you shield yourself from other misfortune. You instantly shift onto a favorable branch of the alternative space because you've changed your vibration. This is called reality inversion. You flip the script, you meet negativity with calm amusement or even feigned delight. This tells the universe, the pendulums, the balanced forces, nope, not playing that game, not giving you my negative energy. It's incredibly powerful for redirecting the flow of events.
That's a serious mental discipline, but I can see how powerful it would be. What about when you're just feeling swamped by stress, though? that heavy, tight feeling of overwhelm. Is there a quick release technique?
Yes. There's a very practical, almost physical exercise called turning the key. The advice is, try turning the key many times during the day, particularly when something is troubling you. It's simple. Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath. Imagine a small key in your mind. As you inhale, visualize turning that key in a lock. As you exhale, imagine that lock releasing all the tension held in your muscles, jaw, shoulders, neck, stomach. Just let it melt away with the breath. This simple visualization releases and cleanses the energy of intention from the excess potential that brings you down. It's described as the key to the conditioning box that oppressive circumstances like to lock you up in, a mental escape hatch for tension.
So it's a conscious physical and mental release. Simple but sounds effective?
Very. And the real power comes when you immediately follow that release by visualizing your target slide, your desired positive reality. Remember, imagine yourself inside the slide rather than watching it. Engage your senses. This is apparently most effective when you're relaxed, maybe even while walking, as the physical movement helps ground the intention. You clear out the stress, then immediately fill that space with your desired vibration. Release and replace.
Okay, and we know negative thoughts are energy vampires, pulling us onto bad lifelines. How do we stop them? How do we deal with the doubts that inevitably pop up?
It reinforces that core principle again. You are always on a lifeline that represents the quality of your energetic vibration. Simple as that. Take in negative energy, news, gossip, complaints, you get disappointments. Give out negative energy, complaining, criticizing, it boomerangs. So awareness is step one. Catch the negative thought spirals. As for doubts, they will come. The mind is conditioned for skepticism. Don't fight them directly or try to argue with them. Instead, fish them out of your mind and put them in their proper place straight away. Acknowledge the doubt, then gently but firmly replace it with a thought like, I know success depends on my choice, and I have made my choice, so why hesitate? You're not trying to force belief, you're reaffirming your choice and your understanding of the process. True belief here isn't blind faith. It's a quiet knowledge, born from that heart-mind alignment.
And what about applying this to other people, our relationships? Can transurfing help us connect better, avoid unnecessary conflict?
Definitely. This involves understanding and tuning into the other person's frail. That's their unique frequency, their core personality, their values, fears, interests. You cannot achieve mutual understanding without attuning to the frequency of your partner. And how do you attune? Here's a profound piece of advice. Let go of the intention to receive and replace it with the intention to give, and you will receive the very thing you let go of.
Give instead of trying to get. So shift focus from what's in this for me to what does this person need or value?
Precisely. Shift your inner sight from yourself to your conversation partner. Genuinely try to understand their world. Talk in the language of their own interests. The example given is asking the boss for vacation. Don't just state your need. Frame it by explaining how taking time off in August will allow you to return refreshed and tackle the important September projects more effectively. You appeal to their interests, productivity. And crucially, avoid criticism. Criticism in any form knocks a person's self-worth. It creates negative slides and invites balanced forces. Never tell anyone to their face that they are wrong, even if you think they are. Find gentler ways to guide or disagree. When you consistently approach interactions this way, focusing on giving value, understanding the other's frail, avoiding criticism, something remarkable happens. People inevitably become well-disposed towards you because you're providing them with a source of excess energy. You're lifting them up instead of draining them. This, the source suggests, is the real secret behind magnetic or charismatic personalities. They are natural givers of positive energy. They make others feel good, seen, and valued. They create a positive, energetic field.
That all ties together beautifully. Giving energy, reducing importance, staying aware. It sounds like it all culminates in a powerful sense of self-determination, right? Declaring our own reality.
That's the ultimate freedom offered by this framework. You can eliminate any judgment imposed on you from the outside, as long as you do not give in to guilt. You don't have to accept others' limiting beliefs or negative assessments of you. You have the inherent right to declare your own verdict on what is true for your world. You define your reality, not external circumstances or opinions. The powerful internal assertion becomes, I have decided this to be true because I am the maker of my own reality. Now, this isn't about arrogant delusion. It only works if you have the temerity to assert your right, that quiet courage, and are genuinely free from the shackles of doubt and guilt. This practice leads to true freedom from oppressive circumstances, not by changing the circumstances directly, but by changing your relationship to them. It fosters a deep, unshakable, quiet confidence that radiates from your core. And what's really amazing is how these simple daily practices, awareness, releasing tension, managing thoughts, shifting focus in relationships, can fundamentally change the entire climate of your personal reality, shifting it towards one that feels chosen, harmonious, and fulfilling.
What an incredible framework. We've covered so much ground today. From feeling like helpless puppets, caught by pendulums and weighed down by our own excess potential, to understanding how we can become conscious creators, aligning heart and mind using slides, flowing with the currents, finding our true door and asserting our right to choose. It really drives home that idea. Happiness isn't a destination you arrive at, it's what you experience on the journey toward your own goal, on the path through your own door.
Exactly. And it's crucial to remember this isn't just a collection of mental tricks or techniques. Transurfing is not about technique, but about becoming aware of your inner freedom and the feeling that you are master of the layer of your world. It's about learning to consciously control your outlook on life. It's about giving yourself permission to have the reality you desire and, paradoxically, allowing the world to take care of you by working with its flow instead of against it. So maybe a final thought for you listening. What if that nagging feeling of drudgery, that endless waiting for things to change, what if it isn't your inescapable fate? What if it's simply the direct reflection of an unconscious choice, an energy signature you've been broadcasting day after day? And what if right now, just like realizing the bleakness on that beach, you could choose differently? What if you could choose to tune in, hear the rustle of the morning stars, that quiet whisper of your own heart's knowing, and activate this incredible power to walk your path? Not someday, not in the elusive future, but starting right here, right now. Because ultimately, you are the maker of your own reality.